I'll be at the podium.
Just so everybody knows, we're not taking a break. We're just going to continue with the panel. No break, going right to the panel.
All right, if everybody could sit down, we're getting started again. Thank you.
Slides right here. You need to pass it, okay?
Okay.
All right.
All right, we're going to go ahead and get going here while folks are getting seated because we were on a tight schedule. I'm Jeff Avery. I'm the Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary for EM. I want to thank Seth for setting this up for us this morning, and I'm honored to be here with such capable and dedicated leaders from our teams on the ground. It's these teams, in partnership with all of you here today, who have driven cleanup progress over the last 35 years. Over that time, we've transformed the tank waste mission. Major skyline changes have been achieved. We've truly advanced the soil and groundwater remediation mission, and we continue to reduce risks to people and the environment. This year, of course, is no different. There is an incredible amount of work happening at EM sites all around the country, and really the best part of my job is acknowledging that and celebrating that. So happy to do that here this morning. We're maintaining momentum with the majority of our 2024 priorities already or very, very nearly checked off. Candace just laid out our broad vision for the what, how, and the why of our mission. And I think our panel this morning is a great opportunity to dig a little bit deeper into some of the specific projects that are driving our mission forward. At this point in my time with EM, I've been to all of our sites, and I've come away so impressed by the steady beat of progress and the engagement that is so critical to our success. There really is nothing like meeting face to face with the people of EM and seeing firsthand the incredible work that we do across the country. It's true at sites large and small, and it's certainly the case at the sites represented on our panel today, Oak Ridge, Hanford, and Los Alamos. And while I have not traveled at quite the pace I did last year, I've been able to cover some ground. For example, over the summer, I had the opportunity to get back down to South Carolina. Savannah River's tank waste treatment mission is steadily progressing. Since 2020, we've more than doubled tank waste treatment capability at the site. Construction projects are steadily progressing. Saltstone Disposal Unit 9 was completed well ahead of schedule, and we've completed all major concrete placements for Unit 10. I'm super excited about the progress we're making, by the way, on the Advanced Manufacturing Collaborative. It's a facility that will bring government, industry, and academia closer together to develop and share new technologies. and we've re-established the capability to dissolve non-aluminum clad spent nuclear fuel after a 25-year hiatus. There's no question EM will have an enduring mission at Savannah River as we complete a smooth transition with our NNSA colleagues at the end of the month. While I was in the area, I also had a chance to tour the ecology lab, for I'll say a very hands-on kind of experience to look at some incredible educational and community outreach programs. That sense of community is one of the things that makes EM sites so special, and it's something that comes across at every single site that I visit. That community-forward approach is certainly on display at Oak Ridge, and you heard a little bit about that already, where transformative progress is leading to ever-increasing opportunities in the state of Tennessee. I'm looking forward to getting back there next week, actually, because I know Jay and the team are just getting started. And with the Alpha 2 demolition project now underway, they're moving right along. That is an incredibly impactful project, by the way, that marks the first teardown of a former uranium enrichment facility at Y-12. Speaking of deactivation and demolition projects, there is great work underway at the Paducah and Portsmouth sites managed by our PPPO team. This spring, during a visit to Portsmouth, I got a firsthand look at the work underway to prepare the X-333 facility for demolition and ultimate waste emplacement. While I was in town, I chatted with our advisory board chairs, met with union leaders, and heard from community groups leading economic diversification efforts in the area. I'm looking forward to getting back out to visit our Idaho team later this year. A huge shout out, by the way, to our Idaho Cleanup Project team for resuming operations at the Integrated Waste Treatment Unit. Through perseverance and a spirit of innovation, the team there has brought back online a unique solution to a very complex challenge. The team there is also in the final throes of bringing down the accelerated retrieval project structures and is exceeding all benchmarks in the demolition projects underway for the Naval Reactors Program. When you think of impactful, large-scale demolition projects, West Valley is another site that has to be part of the conversation. Our team in New York is over halfway done with the main plant process building demolition and has checked off another 2024 priority by shipping a cumulative 20,000 tons of debris from the project. As buildings come down at some sites, our capabilities are being built up at others. Our Carlsbad team is making great progress to modernize the waste isolation pilot plant after 25 years of operation. Construction and commissioning of the new ventilation system is now complete. This checks off another annual priority as we now turn to the training and validation work that's needed to bring the system online by 2026. At Los Alamos, work is underway on a number of key priorities, including the corrugated metal pipe retrieval and packaging project that I got to see during my May visit. While in New Mexico, I had the privilege to meet with each of the 4 Accord Pueblos and tour the Santa Fe Indian School. I learned a great deal about the rich history of the area and came away with a better understanding of the lessons and practices we can continue to think about as we move forward. Now, let me shift to introduce the leaders that will guide the panel discussion as we go through the morning. So representing Oak Ridge, we have Jay Mullis, our site field office manager, and Ken Rueter, President and Chief Executive Officer of United Cleanup Oak Ridge. This duo will fill us in on Vision 2024 and the transformational impact it's having in Tennessee. As you listen to their story, I think you'll see why the theme of partnering for progress is so fitting for this year. Representing Hanford, we have Matt Irwin, EM's Assistant Manager for the Waste Treatment Plant, and Brian Hartman, B&I's Project Director for the Waste Treatment Plant. You'll hear from them on the steady progress that we're making to move the tank waste mission forward at Hanford through vitrification of low-activity waste. And finally, from Los Alamos, we have Jessica Kunkle, EM's newest field office manager, leading our efforts on the Mesa, and Brad Smith, President and General Manager, Newport News, BWXT. They have some exciting news to share with you involving technology deployment that shows promise in making waste drum analysis faster and more accurate. The project also reflects the leading role our Los Alamos team is taking to adapt and deploy technologies that can have benefit across the entire program. I'm pleased to have such a great team up here with me this morning. As EM marks our 35th anniversary, I think it's only fitting that we have Oak Ridge, Hanford, and Los Alamos represented on the panel. Together, these sites, of course, embody where the Manhattan Project began, and now how we're coming full circle, thanks to the significant progress that enables us to look to the future. So with that, I will turn it over to Jay and Ken to get us started.
Thanks, Jeff. So before we jump in, Jeff mentioned that he's coming down next week, and Jeff, let me just warn you of a couple things. One, UT football is underway, and they've had an amazing season playing subpar teams so far. But I'm sure this year it's going to be, yeah, I heard the groans back there. The other thing is this pumpkin spice.
You're sort of dividing the audience right at the start. You understand
exactly.
that?
I could tell the joke about them telling me don't go slow and nail and drive because they'll throw an engineering degree in your car, but I won't talk about that. And it is pumpkin spice latte time in Tennessee already, so they're already advertising that. And for the person who said work pumpkin into my remarks, there you go, you owe me another drink. So I don't usually spend a lot of time on the first slide as the intro slide, but I thought I'd spend a minute here. I think Candace has talked about it, the congressman talked about it, Jeff has mentioned it, but we really couldn't have gotten to where we are in Oak Ridge with what we've done, especially at East Tennessee Technology Park, without the partnerships, and I want to acknowledge that right up front. That partnership started back in 2009, 2010 timeframe between DOE and the first version of UCOR under that contract. Expanded out to the workforce very quickly, and over time, we built off those partnerships. And today, that partnership includes, in addition to the contractor, DOE, and labor, of course, the community. You heard from Chuck this morning, Chuck Hope this morning, and I know we have Mayor Cresswell in here. I saw him earlier from Roane County, and it's critical that we have those partnerships with the community to be able to transfer the property and accomplish what we do there. And we enjoy that in Oak Ridge, and I want to say thank you to them. Regulators as well. We could not do the property transfers. We could not get our cleanup work done without the partnerships that we have with the regulators and other stakeholders, to include headquarters as well. I think sometimes we leave them out of the equation, but it's important as we move paper through the building, as we get to certain key decisions, that we partner with headquarters as well. And so I just wanted to take a minute and recognize and acknowledge those partnerships and say thank you to all those folks that are represented in here that represent those organizations. As well, Vision 2024 was soil cleanup at ETTP, and we'll talk about that here a little bit and how we got into it. There we go. You know I'm Jay. So this first started with Vision 2016 and actually started at the cleanup workshop. Then I was standing next to Ken at the back of the room, not drinking my pumpkin spice latte, but the black coffee that I drank. And Mark Whitney was up here with Steve Dahlgren at the time and got Steve to commit to getting Vision 2016 delivered 3 months earlier than was in the contract. And Ken kind of stiffened up, and I said, well, that's kind of nice that you commit your boss to something. So I thought about committing Jeff to something, or Candace, but I won't do that to you guys. But 2016 was getting the major buildings done there. It's the K25 building, K27 building, 29, 31, and 33. Those are the buildings shown here in green. And it was accomplishing that ahead of schedule and under budget, which really started setting us up for what you'll see becomes the theme out at ETTP, and you can see the green buildings there. Later, we got to Vision 2020, and we established these visions to give waypoints for everybody to rally around. We could communicate that to the community, It made sense. And so we delivered Vision 2020 4 years ahead of schedule, $80 million under budget, an estimated $500 million in savings for the nation's environmental liabilities. What's not shown there is that we didn't anticipate when we put the original RFP together and signed the contract that we would get done with all the major D&D under the first contract in 10 years. So in addition to getting that done ahead of schedule and under contract value, we actually pulled several years worth of work into that ordering period, which was a pretty remarkable feat for the folks that worked on our teams, because it meant with the type of contract we have, a lot of contract changes, right? Change proposals. And so I think for a little while it felt like the dog that caught the car. But that was done ahead of schedule and allowed us to pivot over to Y-12 and Oak Ridge National Laboratory as things at ETDP started winding down on the D&D, meant we could get an early start at those two sites as well, which brought on some additional challenges. I never thought logistics would be what I needed to worry about the most, but it was. To give you a kind of an idea of the scale there, at Y-12, we have about 9,000 people associated within an Assay alone coming on site as they do major modernization and construction projects. At Oak Ridge National Laboratory, there's about 6,000 folks that come on site every day to support the science mission. Then you add on top of that EM trying to get on site with their deconstruction force, along with all the heavy equipment that has to go on to support the modernization that's going on with the other two program offices, plus what's going on with EM, meant that logistics became an issue and meant that we had to have very good partnerships with our other program partners. And we forged those relationships, and that has allowed us to work through, at times, some pretty interesting and knotty issues with our other two program offices, and to bring EPA and TDEC along as well to be introduced to those program offices who own the land out there. And so it became interesting to help forge and facilitate the forging of those partnerships and relationships as well. With that, at ETTP, when we finally attained Vision 2024, Candace mentioned that. She was down earlier for that celebration. We actually thought it'd be about 1 million or 100,000 cubic yards of dirt. Turned out to be about 5 times that, which is pretty typical, I think, when you get to digging, chasing seams of contamination, you end up there. We were able to deliver that a year ahead of schedule with our OMB agency priority goal, and that also enabled us to facilitate the last of the transfers which are underway for the remaining parcels. And we're at the point, interestingly enough, at ETDP, we're out of property to transfer. All the property has either been transferred, is underway, or has been spoken for. And so with SSP2, that was kind of the last big piece that DOE still had access to transfer. There's another small parcel that we're in the process of transferring to the city it's kind of on the west end of town, but that'll be it for the land available for transfer, which is an interesting place to be at this point in time. When we started this 25, 30 years ago, I don't think anybody thought that the community, that we actually could do what we were doing. It was kind of a new vision to, can we take a DOE site and not just set it aside, but actually transfer it back to the community for reindustrialization and industrial development. So that's been pretty exciting to see. I think Ken will talk a little bit more here on some of the actual organizations and companies that have shown up out there. But it also allowed us to get recognized, and you can see all the recipients there. EPA awarded Oak Ridge its Federal Facility Reuse Award this past at the celebration, which recognizes sites that have done a very good job of reindustrializing and transferring back for community reuse formerly contaminated sites. And you can see all the folks that are listed there that were named in the award, and all those have been partners that have been critical to our success out there, not only in gaining this award, but also in the work that was done that leads up to the award, which just recognizes what had been done. So what has been done? 25 new businesses have located to date out on the west end of Oak Ridge because of the activities EM has done. You can see the number of jobs that have been created by that, the amount of money that's been invested, and the focus on carbon-free energy. You actually have a reactor that's being built out at ETTP now. I never would have thought I would have seen that, but the community certainly has a lot of acceptance for that. NRC has given them a construction license. So they actually broke ground, and that's underway. You heard about the Orano announcement. I think part of all this allowed the state to also get on board with the nuclear council that the governor set up, which has just accelerated the growth of nuclear in Oak Ridge. So it's a really good place to be right now for EM and the other programs to see that occurring. So Ken?
Thanks, Jay. I thought a little bit about, how to really open this up, and the two things, we've been talking as a group together for 10 years regarding this this vision and the parties that came together to deliver it. And I thought of three things with regard to this discussion. First of all, I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, but I'm sort of thinking I'm at the peak of things as an individual, because I never thought in my 40 years of doing this that I would receive an award from the EPA. So that I'm like, man, I don't know if there's nothing but down from here. Second of all, when you can get to a point, and I don't mean as an individual, but as a partnership in which you can get your customer to tell your story about the outcomes, which is the story you just heard from Jay. I don't know if it gets any better than that, because our view as a company is that the final outcome of our delivery model is that, and I tell our workforce this all the time, if somebody doesn't tell your story, then nobody hears it, and they really don't appreciate the scale of what's been accomplished. So to have your customer telling your story. The third item is I probably should offer an apology to the fact that you were subjected to Rueterisms, as they're referred to by our new EM1 with regard to that. So, yes, always look at yes, how, and never look at no, why. And I'll talk a little bit about that here in a minute. Most importantly, none of you had to be subjected to mountaineering analogies, which I know most of you hate when I talk about that aspect of it. So, in the spirit of this, us all being here together in the aspects of partnerships, I'm not going to kind of reiterate what all the others have said so far about the importance about that. I'm going to talk about them as foundational. So you see, and again, this is not to make it awkward for these folks, but you see two pictures on there. These are the two principal partners that enabled the journey we went on in 2011 that Jay made mention of. And it isn't coincidental that it all came together with these individuals at the same time. And I thought what was really important is to kind of be very direct about what the congressman has said, the title of the opening slide that Jay talked about, and then Jay's remarks. Here's something I always share with our team and our workforce and our partners in our community. If somebody won't finance your work and somebody won't authorize your work, you don't get to do your work. So it doesn't make a difference how strong your team is. I think we have the best team in the world with regard to doing environmental cleanup. Environmental liability reduction has reduced $500 to $750 million a year. The largest land redevelopment in the history of this country, as signified by the award. These are amazing people. But if they're not given the chance to do their work, and they're not authorized to do their work, meaning they don't capture their work, then they can't build what they sold and finish what they start. And again, nothing was coordinated with Candace, but you see the little bullet down below. At Vision 2024, that's what I recognize these two individuals for. That they entered into a partnership with yes, how, not no, why. Because I think you all know this, in our business, you got to manage your environment and make your own luck. And if you accept the equilibrium of our business, you know what? You win half the time at best. You can't just rely on your athleticism to make it play out. And so you need partners like this to ultimately come together with a vision and a strategy that they buy into, which is a hard thing to do in our business. Put all your chips in the center of the table and then play out that river card to come up and know it's going to be the right one. And that was my message at Vision 2024. Thank the people who authorize us to do our work, and thank the people who are willing to finance our work, because there's an immense amount of risk with regard to doing that, because they put all their chips in the center of the table with us. So again, Jay, I thank you again for that. I know the congressman's left, but I thank him for that aspect of it. So now we sit here with the vision realized. We're building the 409th National Park of our country at a former uranium enrichment site. We're also enabling the cleanup of the other part of the Oak Ridge Reservation's 409th National Park feature, which is the 3001 graphite reactor. And you see, as Jay mentioned, you see a significant amount of cleanup going on at Oak Ridge National Lab, and I'll talk about it here in a minute, at Y12. All centered around meeting our national historic preservation obligations to the citizens of this country. We now sit here with essentially a 3,300 acre conservation area that's been turned back to the citizens of Tennessee, that are actively used for conservation, natural asset, recreation, pick your use. I live in this community. I go by these trailheads and these park areas that we've worked in partnership to develop, and with the community. And you see every single parking lot every single Saturday full. I live across the street from one. I see it every day. See young children, families out there. That's what land reuse is really about. And it enables our community even to be stronger if you believe in the concept of livability. So that's at end state. There's an overall message here with regard to the fact that if you can build a pathway to end states of each of the objective end states, which are the basis for our contract structures right now, that vision, that strategy can get you here. And here's three principal examples of that. The third one is the whole nuclear renaissance. Jay mentioned that. The congressman talked about it. Here's the fate favors the prepared, or fortune follows the prepared at the end of the day. The nation's nuclear innovation district, the first one in this country, is going to be sited in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. And it's going to be sited there because of the great work that all these partners have done to complete this land. Think of the fact that if Vision 2020 had not happened on schedule, ahead of schedule by 4 years, we'd be sitting here today talking about ETTB being finished. Do you think we'd be talking about the nation's largest commercial civilian uranium enrichment facility being sited there? We would not be doing that. So again, fortune favors the prepared. And driving outcomes and connecting those strategies and environmental and liability reduction, which is our principal moral obligation to the American taxpayer, to all of us, and then enabling land reuse. That's at the center of that EPA award. If you kind of were to read the plaque or take a look at that. So now we have all these companies siting here in this nuclear innovation district. So they've become the hub. They become the OEMs of our new industry. And with that, we're now wrapping around them all the co-locator businesses that enable that. So if you look at like an automotive industry model, you see OEMs, you see co-locators, and you see workforce development and workforce resourcing. You see all that around the center of this nuclear innovation district. That's all been enabled with the future begins with cleanup and that outcome. So 5,000+ people coming together to deliver that outcome. And think of the trust and think of the collaborativeness and the collegialness that's necessary to deliver on that aspect. Every one of those links in that chain have to be equally strong to do that. At the end, this represents roughly $9.5 billion a year annually of GDP. Think of that. Only in America could something like this happen. $9.5 billion of GDP in a essentially centered in a community of 32,000 people. Think of that. And this is the Silicon Valley of nuclear now. This is the Research Triangle Park of nuclear. All because of the work that was enabled by individuals like Jay and Congressman Flashman in 2011. So with that, kind of ending with what we started with, the future really does begin with cleanup. We do have a moral and ethical obligation to not only reduce this environmental liability, the third largest liability held by the American taxpayer, but also to then return that land to be used for the livability of the communities, for the people who gave it to fight the Great War, to win it, and that aspect of it. And so now we look forward at the Oak Ridge Reservation, and so now we have alignment of these visions and these strategies to deliver on to ensure we enable the modernization mission of the National Defense Program at Y-12 and the modernization of the science mission at ORNL. So things like fusion, things that are going to change the world, exascale computing, all those sites currently have legacy buildings standing on them. And we're currently knocking them down in majority of the cases ahead of schedule, if not on schedule. We don't have anything behind schedule at all. And everybody's all in on delivering the same outcomes for Y-12 and ORNL as they did at ETTP. So we had a big, as Jeff mentioned, we had a big moment a couple Fridays ago in which we moved into the first Calutron building, the first former Mercury use building, actively remediating mercury hazards in the East Fork Poplar Creek watershed. We've already removed roughly 110 gallons of mercury from the environment. That's our duty, that's our commitment. And in the start of the Alpha 2 demolition signifies that. So if we can play the video. Oop. Should I do something? No. So I want to end with just why is this so significant? So this is a 750,000 square foot building. I've talked about the mercury abatement and all of that. Roughly 600 people have spent the last 4 years abating this building. So if you ever get a chance to meet somebody who works within our labor community in East Tennessee, it's some of the hardest work you have to do. You should shake their hand. It is, Jay and I personally enter the building quite often to keep perspective on that. And so that's the labor management piece that we'll talk more about at the caucus on Wednesday. The second is one of the largest high reach machines that we've ever assembled and built and used is going to be used to knock this building down. So that was the significance of that spot being cleared up there. It may have looked like a small building, but we're going to be assembling this machine to begin to do that work here in the middle of October. And we'll be working in the demolition of this building for somewhere around 12 to 18 months. It was 24 months, but Jay's asked me to get it done early. So in the spirit of the cleanup workshop that we always talk about. So again, I thank you for listening. I thank Jay, I thank the congressman, I thank all our communities for their partnership. None of it would be possible if I didn't convey that message to you. None of that would be possible without them.
Well, thank you, Jay. Thank you, Ken. Really an inspiring story, I'd say, about what is possible through partnership and making the kind of progress we need in the EM program. And I think the work that you're doing really serves as a model for what's possible across the program to enable a bright future for communities across the country. So thanks for your work. Let's turn now to discuss the waste treatment plant in Hanford and get an update on the progress there. Some incredible things happening. It's going to be an impactful year for us for that project. So let me first turn it over to Matt to get us started.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity to share a little bit about the adventure that is the waste treatment plant at Hanford. Brian and I are very excited to share with you the adventure that we're experiencing at the Direct Feed Low Activity Waste Program. As I was sitting out in the audience here this morning, I was really humbled at the opportunity to share the stage with so many exceptional leaders. But as I thought about it more, I realized that I'm particularly humbled at being a part of the VIT plant. And as you see on the slide, opening slide here, one of the things that we talk about a lot at WTP is making history. Getting to bring up the 2 300-ton melters that make up the LAW vitrification plant is very exciting and certainly humbling. And it's really encouraging to see each of the steps as we work our way through it. First thing I wanted to share with everybody is the fact that the DFLAW program is really a one Hanford endeavor, and it takes all of the contractors on the team to work our way through it and be successful. This slide just highlights the tank waste and the different support that we have that supports the waste treatment plant. Starting up in the center top in the gold is the tank farms. That's where it all starts. Right now, they are processing supernate through the tank side cesium removal system, TSCR, and they have over 500,000 gallons of compliant feed ready for us to get into hot commissioning at the low activity waste plant. They'll have well over 800,000 by the time we get to start up here just under a year from now. If you follow the orange line, it goes down and it takes a sharp right at the low point drains and then goes over to the low activity waste facility. That is the heart of the vitrification activity, and that's where our focus is on commissioning right now. We've got both melters hot and full of test glass and working our way through the commissioning string. The white line represents all of the secondary cooling water that goes back to the effluent treatment facility and our liquid treatment facilities. Both the tank farms and the liquid treatment facilities are managed by our tank farms contractor. So they work hand in hand with Brian's team here at the waste treatment plant to make sure that all the interfaces are managed and that we are taking care of everything we need to do. When we fill those containers with glass and they're allowed to cool, then they are put on trucks and sent over to the integrated disposal facility, which is managed by our Central Plateau contractor, and that's up in the upper left-hand corner. And then the overlay of all of this is our infrastructure contractor who provides us with maintaining the roads, emergency preparedness, fire protection, first responders, IT support, water and power, all of those things that are absolutely necessary for working our way through the commissioning string at DFLAW. So as I get to the next slide and cue up the video, I would encourage everybody, as you watch this video, it's going to show you the steps that we go through to heat up a melter, which I said both of them are hot at this time. But I'd also encourage you to think about all of those support systems that go on behind the scenes, things that seem like simple, straightforward things like power supplies, cooling systems, ventilation systems, all of those fun things that are necessary to actually get a plant like this started up safely. Because we've learned something new about every single one of those as we've worked through there. Now, I'm hoping, nope, that doesn't do it. So I'm not sure how I cue the, oh, there we go. There's the video, all right. This video is also available on YouTube, so if it's something you want to share with your friends and family, I would encourage you to do so. That's a picture of our two melters. right, so this highlights both of our melters are past this stage. What it shows here is the first pour for melter 1. We've filled over 6 containers, working on number 7 and 8 right now. Melter 2 has also gone through its frit pour. Tuning feed has been added to melter 1, and melter 2 is right on the verge of that. So as this finishes up, I'm going to hand off to Brian and let Brian share some of the pictures and kind of walk you through some of those historic moments as we've worked our way through commissioning of the low activity waste facility. Brian? Oh, I skipped one there for you, sorry. Right.
There we go.
Oh, it didn't go back. And I got you messed up. Push the blue one, the green one, excuse me. There it is.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. So I'm Brian Hartman with Bechtel National, Project Director at the Waste Treatment Plant. So thanks again, Matt, for that introduction. As you saw in the video, that actually took a lot of effort to get us through that. So the project has been doing some very historic things over the past year. I'd actually like to take you back and not necessarily talk about where we are now, but take you back a year, the last National Cleanup Workshop Committee. At that time, we had just heated up the first melter and had added frit to it. Basically, in that time frame, as the video showed, we heated up the melter to 2100 degrees, added frit, which is really glass beads. So really clean beads that were added there to establish our first melt pool. And that's what happened since the last workshop, that's where we were. Since then, the melters have been operating 24/7 under operations. They do not shut down. Once we powered up the melters, they are in full operation for that whole time. And the operation teams have been conducting system and proficiency checks to make sure that we can ensure those stable operations around the clock. You can see sort of that we've actually had our team working through the law facility control room remotely and conducting those tests. And then they actually did the first pours remotely for those melted glass bead that were called frit. On this slide here, you'll see that in November of last year, we actually completed filling the first full container. The picture to the left shows you that full container with the lid still open. The picture on the right actually shows you an infrared vision of the filling of that container itself. That filled container weighs about 12,000 pounds. And so we celebrated the filling of this very first container with our customer and with the Department of Ecology. And so actually you can see in the middle there, that middle picture of the container, that's the first container that rolled off the line for the waste treatment plant. It's full of clean test glass. We actually had a celebration event where we allowed the Department of Energy customer, we allowed the Department of Ecology colleagues that we have, and literally everyone on the site to sign that first container that came off. That invoked a sense of pride with the project, basically of the accomplishment and the historic achievement of that first container rolling off the line last December. So if we can move forward here. Now, as we move forward with this, once we actually did that celebration, guess what time it was? Time to go back to work, all right? Because that was just the first melter. So we really had to now focus ourselves on how do we actually go repeat that and repeat it on a scale that we were doing it faster. So when we were starting up melter 1, all of the challenges that we actually had, as we were correcting those issues on melter 1, we rolled those into melter 2 and made sure that we were bringing up the lessons that we learned from melter 1 into melter 2 so that we could actually help accelerate the progress of melter 2 going through that. So earlier this year, we heated up melter 2, and then in April, melter 2 actually reached its operating temperature of 2100 degrees, and soon after that, we were actually making pours from melter 2, as Matt said. So we've actually made clean frit glass pours from both melter 1 and melter 2. Operating 2 now melters filled with molten test glass around the clock across all of our crews marks a very pivotal shift and how WTP and all of Hanford is now postured as we go forward. With both melters running, our team focused on building their operational proficiency, not only with just running the melters, but also in pouring the test glass and filling those containers. The team had to actually work on their proficiency of, moving those 12,000-pound containers from the melter through our transfer and finishing line, ensuring that we had accurate measurements for each of the levels, each of the pours, making sure that our automatic sampling systems were correctly calibrated and measuring the right things, and our automatic swabbing systems for those to make sure that those things also are working proficiently and around the clock. Took a lot of work for us to get those things going, and we're still kind of working through sort of the remote control operations of those as we move into this next phase for us. In the spring, as you can see in the lower left-hand corner, that truck there, we received our first shipment of sodium hydroxide. Sodium hydroxide is the primary constituent of our tuning feed. Our team invested much preparing the procedures, conducting training, making sure the entire site was aware of it, and practicing for receipt of this chemical, which was really the first significant chemical hazard introduced to the plant since the project's inception. Tuning feed is a mixture of water, sodium hydroxide, and glass-forming chemicals that closely mimic the characteristic of the eventual future waste product. This summer, we actually began feeding that tuning feed into melter 1 and making pours into containers for that tuning feed. In the next few days, we'll be doing the same thing for melter 2. With each batch of feed, the team actually documents their experiences and incorporates new lessons learned as they continue to move through on each batches. Here, on this slide, I actually like to highlight a few of the activities that happen that are conducted with all of sort of the One Hanford partners as we have here. Up in the top right, you'll see that, we've actually increased our pace of emergency drills and assessments to ensure that we are prepared for the next chemical that actually arrive on the site. We still have to introduce nitrates to the site, and we still need to introduce ammonia to the site to actually get to the final tuning feed that we actually have. The drills that we do with emergency preparedness include Hanford Missions Integrated Systems, which are the providers for all the emergency responses for the project and the services for the site. And you can actually see the Hanford Fire Department there participating in these drills. Each of these drills really are a test of how we proficiently operate and respond to emergencies. And so it takes a coordinated effort across the site between all of Hanford Mission Integrated Systems, the fire department, and all of the employees on the Hanford site itself when those drills actually happen. Last month, we actually worked with Washington River Protection Solutions on that lower left-hand side to actually successfully transfer 4,000 gallons of water from our influent management system facility. These water runs actually demonstrate that the lines that are underground that will transfer water and transfer waste materials to and from the site are actually solid and productive, and we actually have procedures between both of those two contractors to be able to manage those systems efficiently. And then the next critical collaboration that we have on that bottom right-hand side was taking the first immobilized low-activity waste containers and being able to put them on the specially designed truck facility and move those to the integrated disposal facility that's operated by the Central Plateau Cleanup Company. Again, another coordination between the Hanford contractors to indicate that the project itself is starting to get into that mode where all the contractors are coming together and actually having the facility work under the One Hanford rules that we actually have. Now, on the next slide, I think I'm going to turn it back over to Matt and let Matt talk about sort of that pride and partnership that we have as we move through the rest of the project. Matt?
All right, so if you've been involved in readiness at the department for very long, you've heard of the 3 Ps, people, plant, and paper. That was the staple of readiness for the first 25 years of my career, and it worked really well for us getting ready and also validating readiness. Something we learned as we got into the safety culture world, though, is that those may be necessary, but they're really not sufficient. And something that was coined by our former project director that we lost way too soon was the 5 Ps, and that added partnership and pride. Partnership is really a catalyst that supports both safety culture and actually the safe commissioning and operation of a plant for that matter. And that really resonated with the team. And then the pride is really that result of all of those pieces coming together and really driving the team to both celebrate their successes and learn as they work through the plant. One of the things we've definitely learned is that every plant has its own identity, and the sooner you learn that identity and adjust to that identity, the better off that you are. So we actually live by the 5 Ps now, so that's just our approach from a readiness standpoint, and it's really paid a lot of dividends from a safety culture standpoint. So in conclusion, I'll finish up here real quick. Brian already alluded to it. We're within a couple of weeks of getting into our coal commissioning management assessment. And you say, well, why is that important? That's how we validate that we're ready to bring on the coal commissioning simulant, which introduces nitrates, which creates NOx in our off-gas, which is our single biggest off-gas hazard. To treat that NOx, we also have to bring on ammonia, and that allows us to treat the NOx in our off-gas system. And then ammonia represents our single biggest hazard on the plant. So that coal commissioning management assessment allows us to validate that we're ready. All of the people, plant, and paper are in the right positions, and we can go do that safely. Once we do that, that allows us to do the next set of testing in the off-gas system to make sure that it's mitigating those hazards effectively. We gain additional proficiency managing both melters while running the off-gas, while bringing on ammonia to treat that off-gas. That culminates then in our environmental performance demonstration test. That's one of our permit requirements, and that's where we actually spike that off gas with additional emissions and validate that the off gas works properly. And then that leads us to next summer doing that final readiness before we get to critical decision 4A and hot commissioning, where we add the tank waste feed. So very exciting time at the waste treatment plant and the DFLAW program. So appreciate having the opportunity to talk about it. And as Candace and Congressman Fleshman mentioned, it's time to get Hanford cleaned up and to get the tank waste mission forward, and that time is now. So thank you very much. Back to you, Jeff.
All right, thank you, Matt. Thank you, Brian. Really exciting year bringing the melters online and starting to move through the commissioning process. Thanks for all the hard work in moving the project forward. So important, not only to the region, but to the entire EM program. Let me shift now to Jessica and Brad to talk a little bit about a new technology that we're investigating to improve how we characterize waste, perhaps make it more efficient and improve the accuracy. So looking forward to learning about that. I am going to do a time check because I believe we are still on schedule to have the secretary at 10:15. The clocks here in front of us are not properly synchronized, so go with the red clock. Okay, so Jessica, over to you.
All right, thanks, Jeff. So I'm the new manager for the EM Los Alamos field office. I'm really excited to be here. This is my first cleanup workshop. And it actually dawned on me this morning that today officially marks the completion of my 3rd month in the role. So I'm really excited to be able to share this day with all of you. And while I'm new to EM, I am not new to the department. I spent my first 15 years of my career in the National Nuclear Security Administration. And when I think about it, the department has actually played some role in my life in some form or fashion my entire life, because I actually was born and raised in Los Alamos, and my dad worked at the National Lab in Los Alamos for 35 years. So it's been a real privilege to actually have this sort of homecoming opportunity. And I was actually talking with my dad about work a few weeks ago, as we do. And he turned to me and he said, you know, I've realized that my work has come full circle with you. And I said, oh, really? Can you help explain that to me? And he says, well, I generated nuclear waste, and now you're cleaning it up. So we're sort of a full service family. But with that, it's really, really great to be here. And I just want to say that I'm just really privileged to be here amongst such an amazingly talented network of individuals who are just dedicated to cleaning up DOE's legacy sites. I think it's an incredibly valuable mission that we have here in EM, and I'm just really honored to be here. So Brad and I are actually going to change gears just a little bit. We're going to give you an overview of a new technology that we have been piloting at Los Alamos on behalf of EM. That new technology is called the Universal Drum Assay, Segregation, and I always get this wrong. Universal Drum Assay and Segregation System, or UDASS for short, because we love our acronyms. And so without further ado, we're going to talk about UDASS. So in a nutshell, UDASS is a new technology that was actually developed overseas in the United Kingdom by Antec with New Vision Engineering. And it's actually been successfully demonstrated at the Sellafield site with proven success. And so when the Office of Environmental Management was looking to actually pilot this technology for potential use within the EM complex, they actually turned to Los Alamos. And so it's been our privilege to demonstrate this new technology on behalf of the environmental management complex. And for our eagle-eyed audience members, yes, that is our very own Jeff Avery on one of his recent trips to Los Alamos, getting an overview of the UDASS system. So a little bit more about UDASS before I turn it over to Brad to get into more of the nitty-gritty details. UDASS is an advanced gamma assay drum counting system that's designed to more accurately analyze the contents of radioactive waste drums. And really the technology allows us to assay at closer to true waste levels of nanocuries per gram with higher fidelity. And we're really excited because we truly believe that this more sensitive analytical capability relative to other currently deployed technologies can actually better differentiate between transuranic waste and low-level waste. And I'm now going to turn it over to Brad, who's going to tell you quite a bit more about the actual technology.
Thanks, Jessica. Brad Smith, President and General Manager of N3B. And this is going to be a shameless plug, so I need everybody to have, hopefully you had your coffee, because at the end of the next 3 slides, I'm taking applications to become a UDASS operator, okay? So what you see here is the unit. And this began in 2022 to try to set this up. We had to design the necessary infrastructure. We had to adapt existing processes, because for those of us that are at EM sites, you can take a really good lesson learned from a technology standpoint and you end up having to overlay it into your own infrastructure. It doesn't always work. Had to select a population of waste containers. We provided site training to our operators, hence the reason why I'm saying after this I'll take applications. And we had to integrate the UDASS then not only into our existing operations, but future operations. We had 373 legacy waste drums that we identified that contain between 80 and 400 nanocuries per gram. Of these, this UDASS system actually has 3 different pieces to it, so that as an operator, as you generate waste or have legacy waste, you could have either a single waste form or a mixture of waste forms. And as you start getting to the mixture of waste forms, that's where the uncertainty of the previous counting techniques could end up where conservatism, you've got a margin for error, so you decrease away from the 100 nanocuries per gram to make sure you don't ship something to WIP that you don't want to ship. So what this does and what this has done for us is given operators confidence that when they go through and they do the analysis, that what they're reading and what goes on to a shipping manifest is actually what we're doing. So what this has done, 98% reduced uncertainty. This leads to total reduced activity of 79% of the waste forms that we had. We had 72% of the drums showing reduced alpha activity. Now that is predominantly the waste form that creates the true waste. And 15% that was thought to be true was actually downgraded to low-level waste. What's this mean? We have WIP, and it is a national resource for us all. We know Hanford, we know Idaho, we know Savannah River, we know Oak Ridge is going to be shipping large quantities of waste. We have waste that we are going to be doing as well. So in order to optimize, that is the first thing we want to do, hence the utilization of this innovation that started in the UK. I was over in the UK for a period of time and had seen this system work at Sellafield, and I'm really honored that we were able to given the opportunity to pilot this. And Here we are. So I'd like to give back to Jessica.
So I think everybody would agree that those initial results are incredibly encouraging. And as Brad and I were really thinking about, what is the potential broader impact or benefit to the EM complex? We really sort of distilled those really encouraging initial results to 3 main value possibilities for EM. The first, as Brad mentioned, is really making sure that we're optimizing our space utilization at WIP. I think we can all recognize that space at WIP is a precious commodity, and so doing everything that we can to make sure that we're optimizing the use of that asset is in our best interests. But also with the more accurate differentiation between transuranic waste and low-level waste, we can actually meet the larger EM goal of dispositioning more waste as low-level waste versus true waste, which, as we all know, can provide for faster waste disposition and also cost avoidance as we disposition waste through the most appropriate disposition pathway. So the ultimate takeaway is that this new technology, which as you see fits in a standard shipping container, could have major impacts and major benefits to the broader EM complex and really enable our limited cleanup dollars to go further as we have so much very valuable and important cleanup work left to do at all of our sites. And so we're really excited about these results, and we hope you are all too.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Brad. Really, really exciting. Very positive to see the promising initial results, and appreciate the discussion on the most powerful applications for this new technology. So I'll invite you back for a future panel so we can talk about the progress that we make over the next year. So with that, I hope you all have enjoyed the panel discussions this morning that just really have illustrated the great progress that we're making around the country. I think throughout the presentations, a lot of great themes illustrated, themes of partnership and alignment, the importance of stakeholder engagement, the role of innovation in moving our mission forward, and also good old-fashioned program and project management. So with that, thank you to all of our presenters, and how about a big round of applause? Nice job.
All right, everybody stay in your seats, please.
All right, thank you, everyone. And again, good morning once again.